Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. And last night was night one of the NBA Cup, formerly the in-season tournament. Something that I've said before here on the channel, I am a fan of. I like it when the NBA tries new things. I like the play-in tournament. Now everybody loves it. I was excited for this as well, and I feel like last year was a big success. It was competitive. It was different. It really built up the stakes for some of those early season games, and it really transformed some stars. I don't think Tyrese Halliburton has nearly the national spotlight on him now if that in-season tournament run did not happen with Indiana. So I was really excited for it this year, and night one did not disappoint. First of all, I want to shout them because I feel like they took the colorful aspect of last year's courts and improved on it a lot. Some of them last year were cool, some were hideous, and I feel like now they really found that middle ground of, whoa, this is weird, but also it's a cool, different thing. I like that they have the trophy at the center of the court. Can we please start doing that again for the NBA Finals? Thank you. But yeah, the courts were cool, and the games were even better. We saw the best game of the season tonight, multiple great endings, upsets, and it's all going to lead into what I imagine will be an amazing year two of the NBA Cup. So let's go ahead and talk about it. To the surprise of nobody, the main event, the best game of the night, again, best game of the season, was Warriors versus Mavericks. This, of course, was Klay Thompson's return to the Bay Area as an opponent for the first time, and it was a moment like it should be. I always hoped that Steph, Klay, and Draymond would retire together as Golden State Warriors. Obviously didn't happen, and the Warriors made sure to go ahead and honor him in a big way. Every fan in the arena was wearing the Captain Klay boat hat. A bunch of Warriors staffers welcomed him in a big way when he arrived at the arena. They had this awesome tribute video. All the fans gave him this big time standing ovation, cheered him on throughout the game. It was an experience, and I feel like this was really the moment where it all set in that Klay Thompson is no longer with the Warriors. Obviously, I've watched a ton of Mavs and Warriors hoops this year, so I know that, but it really didn't feel concrete until this moment, until they said their goodbye, and Klay immediately was ready to go up against them because he had one of his best games of the season tonight. He had 6 threes. He was kind of forcing it early, really trying to seemingly get the jitters out to get some shots up, and pretty quickly he settled in, which is no surprise. He's shot a million threes in this arena before in front of this fan base, and he was out there cooking. He was going all night, but it wasn't just him. Luka was also on fire early and ended up with 31, 8, 6, and 3. Kyrie really took over down the stretch, specifically in that fourth quarter, and finished with 21 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists. The Mavericks were down for a lot of this game, but towards the end, it looked like it was all Dallas. They went up by 7 with 4 minutes left after a Gafford dunk. Klay hit a couple of threes. I don't know how the Warriors lost him out of all people in transition. You think after years of having him on your side, terrorizing the rest of the NBA the second you leave him open, you would make sure not to do that when he's against you, but they failed to do so. But yeah, it felt like the Mavericks were kind of pulling away a little bit, and then Steph Curry happened. He's a 36-year-old 6'2" point guard that has unbelievable mileage on his legs, that is continuously asked to carry this franchise, just played in the Olympics, and he still finds ways to just will them to victories late in games. He scored the last 12 points for the Warriors, all in the final 3 minutes and 10 seconds. There were a couple of threes in there were some layups, and the final dagger was a step-back three over Derek Lively with 28 seconds left that Luka probably thought looked familiar. It looked eerily similar to when Luka hit the step-back three over Rudy Gobert, which in the offseason Derek Lively clowned him for, so hopefully he now realizes what it's like to be on the other end of that. There's just nothing you can do when Steph gets in that zone. He screamed at the camera, hit them with a night-night. Now the Mavs did stay alive after that. Quentin Grimes hit a crazy difficult step-back three that honestly could have been an and one, but he hits that shot, then Steph hits a couple of free throws. Luka gets the chance to try and send this game to overtime, takes a step-back three, it misses, and Golden State goes ahead and wins. They are now 9-2 in the season. I've said it before in a recent video, but I think I was wrong about the Golden State Warriors. Unless they really drop off a cliff, they are way better than I was expecting. Steph Curry is, of course, a big part in that. I didn't expect him to regress, but he's carrying them in some of these big moments even more than I was expecting. The role players like D'Anthony Melton have been really good. He had 14 points, but he yielded 14. Kuminga had 16 in this game. Trace Jackson-Davis had some good minutes. Kevon Looney. Everybody was contributing. Draymond Green is still a defensive monster with Chet Holmgren now hurt. He's probably my front runner for Defensive Player of the Year at the moment. He had 11, 7, 6, 3, and 2. Really just shut down everything that the Mavericks were trying to do at certain junctures of this game. They have built this great system over there. Everybody's contributing on both ends. And with Steph Curry playing like this, I would know he just torched my Oklahoma City Thunder a few days ago. There's not a lot of things you can do against this Golden State team. And again, I want to reiterate, he is a 36-year-old 6'2" point guard, and he's still managing to do stuff like this. He turns 37 in March, so technically this is his age 37 season. I just can't believe he is still this good. Obviously, with the Olympics, we knew this was probably coming this year. But yeah, he single-handedly walked down Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, and Klay Thompson. And I'm sure it didn't feel great for Klay to be on the other side of one of these Curry flurries series. But hey, now he knows how all 29 fan bases have felt at some point when Curry has done that to them inevitably at one moment or another. For the Mavericks, they continue to have these late game execution issues. I don't love the fact that it feels like every time they need a bucket, it's a Luka step back three from like 30 feet out. I wish he would get downhill a little bit more and try to do something there. Now here they needed a three, so I don't blame him for taking that. But also like Kyrie was really cooking. Luka was not hitting his outside shot and it really hasn't that efficiently at all to start this season. So maybe you try to hit Kyrie on a look. I do understand though you want to try and get a shot up quick because they're trying to foul, or they might try to foul. They didn't really go for it this time, but it's always a possibility. And Luka's hit a lot of these big step back threes before. We just talked about the one over Rudy Gobert, so I don't blame him necessarily. It just always feels like when the Mavericks need a final shot, it's some ISO look. They don't move the ball at all. They fall into their old habits, and sometimes they work because they have some of the best shot makers on the planet in Kyrie and Luka Doncic, but other times it just results in a really bad brick, and you wonder, could they have gotten anything else? Could there have been a better shot out there? And this loss brings them under 500. They're 5-6 at the 11th seed right now in the Western Conference. Now, it is very early. That is not at all a death sentence. I mean, the Mavericks started off bad last year and ended up in the NBA Finals, but they've definitely not clicked the way I think some people are expecting them to. They're on a 3-game losing streak, and a lot of these losses are just coming because of bad late game execution. If a couple shots went their way, they could be like 8-3 or something like that, but instead they're just not performing. And it's something that is crazy when you have two clutch players like Luka and Kyrie on your roster. They're just not executing in those moments, and I do think Luka's shot selection at those final few possessions can be an issue sometimes. And of course, with this win, the Warriors move themselves up to the top of their NBA Cup group. The Mavericks, of course, being in that group as well, they move to the bottom, but only a 3-point differential, which does matter when it comes to seeding. So the Mavericks aren't out of it yet, but they have a tough uphill battle because their group also includes the Nuggets and the Grizzlies, who are going to be gunning for one of those top spots as well. But that was nowhere near the only thriller of the night, because meanwhile, you had the Pistons and Heat playing to the final buzzer with some of the craziest final possessions I've ever seen. So the Pistons went up by 9 with about 2 minutes to go, and I honestly thought the game was over. I turned it off for a moment before Tyler Hero turned into Tracy McGrady and hit 3 threes in a row over the last 90 seconds to tie the game up with 32 seconds to go. The Pistons could not stop him. They had some good contests, but Hero has just been so locked in this season. He has been easily the best player for the Heat. He's been playing at an all-star level. Did miss the shot at the buzzer to try and win in regulation, but he got them there in the first place, and they still have a shot in overtime. And Hero, once again, was the hero. Didn't mean to make that pun, but he was the hero. He had a bank shot with 2 seconds left to go ahead and give the Heat the lead. It felt like they were going to win. He had 40 points. He was completely unstoppable, and now all the Heat have to do is get one stop to seal this game. But JB Bickerstaff draws up a great play to get a lob to Jalen Duren to tie this one up, and Erik Spoelstra calls a timeout to try and go ahead and draw up a play for the win with a second left, except for the fact that he doesn't have a timeout. He doesn't have one, so it's a technical free throw for the Pistons that Malik Beasley knocks down and possession of the ball. So not only do the Heat not get the chance to just throw up a heave to win it in single overtime, they don't get to play for double OT because they hand them the game. I don't know how Erik Spoelstra, a coach of his experience, one that is considered probably the best coach in the league by most people, just has a brain fart like that. And the funniest part of it all was Jalen Rose's reaction, who was in the crowd. He had a very similar moment, if you didn't know, at Michigan with the Fab Five, with a timeout that was called that they didn't have. So he was having flashbacks. It was hilarious. And the Heat lose one that was entirely winnable, that they should have went ahead and won, with Hero again having an insane game, 40 points. He's been so good this season. Bam, who's been very up and down, had 20 and 12. No Jimmy Butler. They were there. They just couldn't get the win. Terry Rozier, by the way, has been awful to start the season. Shot 3 of 14, 3 turnovers. Has not looked at all like the player they want him to be after they traded for him last season, gave up a first-round pick. Disaster loss for Miami. But for the Pistons, this is great. I mean, now they're tied with the Bucks at the top of their group in the NBA Cup. This is something that they really want to gun for. This is kind of what this is for, in my opinion, the NBA Cup, is these young teams making a statement, making a name for themselves. We saw that last year with the Pacers. And I think the Pistons could be the next team to do that. I picked them to win over on Twitter, this group, and this is a good start for them. Malik Beasley talked about what it meant for them after the game, saying that they want to be in Vegas, they want to be playing for the NBA Cup, go for something. And it makes sense for a Pistons team that has been so in the gutter over the past few years, coming off the worst season in franchise history where they had actual expectations. This would be a big step for them. And they've now got their 5th win, which took them 45, 50 games to get last season. You had 24, 8, and 6 from Cade, 18 from Ivy, a double-double from Jalen Duren, 20 from Tim Hardaway Jr. This was a fantastic game, and I really do think the NBA Cup aspect of it ramped up the intensity a ton. We also had Hawks versus Celtics, which I wasn't anticipating being as close as it was. No Trey for Atlanta. Atlanta. Celtics were up by 15 in the third quarter. It felt like that one was over, but this Hawks team just doesn't quit. Jalen Johnson going insane. Dyson Daniels having the game of his career, and Yucca Kongwu hitting a putback layup to take the lead with 6 seconds left, despite a lot of guys in the Celtics going off. Jaylen Brown had 37 tonight. Derek White had 31. Tatum struggled to shoot the ball, but still 26 and 8. There was a lot of going up against the Hawks, but they stayed with it, took the lead. The Celtics, though, do have a chance to go ahead and win this one, but they immediately turned the ball over. Jrue Holiday inbounds it. Jason Tatum mishandles the pass. Way sloppier game than usual for the Celtics. Hawks now just have to get the ball in, hit a couple of free throws, and they're likely going to walk out of here with a W in Boston. And then they immediately turn the ball over as well, giving it right back to the Celtics, who do get a shot at the buzzer from Jaylen Brown, but he misses. And Atlanta gets the win without Trae Young in Boston, going ahead and moving towards the top of their NBA Cup group. This is what I'm talking about. This intensity was way higher than usual. A big win for a Hawks team that's trying to make a statement, show that they're not worse than last year. They've got a lot more youth on this team. It's extremely exciting stuff. This is what the NBA Cup is all about. 18, 13, 10, 3, and 1 from Jalen Johnson. 28 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, and 6 steals from Dyson Daniels, who is firmly towards the top of the most improved player conversation at this early juncture in the season. Definitely an all-defensive lock right now. If the season ended today, he is 1,000% on one of those teams. Larry Nance Jr. had 19 on 7 of 10 shooting, and Yucca Kongwu had 15 points. Everybody was going crazy. And again, this is all without Trae Young. I've had a ton of fun watching the Hawks this season. For the Celtics, they were, again, just way sloppier than usual. They were losing the ball a ton. Jason Tatum wasn't the best. They're going to be fine, but really gutsy win from Atlanta. Not to mention, we also saw Joel Embiid's return. He has not played all season, and it didn't go great in his first game against the Knicks. It's a tough opponent to come back against. 13 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists on 2 of 11 shooting, getting most of his points at the free throw line. Clearly still getting back to game speed. In the first quarter, he was gassed out there. He asked for a sub and went back to the locker room. It's going to take some time to really get into game shape. Paul George, though, was great with 29, 10, 3, and 3, including 7 threes. Jared McCain was awesome with 23 points and 4 threes. He's been one of the best rookies in the league this season. It just wasn't enough to overcome the Knicks, who do win this one somewhat comfortably. Cat still playing amazing hoops, 21, 13, and 6. OG Anunoby was insane, looking like Scottie Pippen out there at some moments. 24, 6, and 2 from him on 11 of 16 shooting, by the way. Josh Hart, triple-double, 14, 12, and 10. Deuce McBride had 15 points. Jalen Brunson still figuring it out in the early going of the season, but he's going to be fine. The rest of the Knicks, though, cooked, and this was a big win for them. This is one they needed to go ahead and get, not only to help out their NBA Cup standing, but to kind of give themselves a win over a squad that has been struggling but does have a lot of talent. For the Sixers, they just need to get everybody on the court. Maxey is still dealing with injury. Once they get everybody out there, they'll be fine, but for the moment, it's been a very bad start to the season. And to go ahead and round things out, you had the Magic routing the Hornets behind 32, 8, 5, and 3 from Franz, who has really stepped up in Paolo's absence. And this came in despite of 35, 6, and 7 from LaMelo, who's continuing to make his all-NBA case known. You had the Blazers stunning the Timberwolves with a pretty comfortable win. 19, 9, 3, 3, and 3 from Robert Williams, flirting with a 5x5 there. He's looked so good since coming back from injury. Would love to see him get traded to a contending team at some point. The Bucks beat the Raptors, no Damian Lillard. You had 23, 4, 7, and 4 blocks by Giannis. Bobby Portis playing well. You did see 32 points from Grady Dick, who continues to be one of the best sophomore players in the league, but just not enough against that Bucks team that actually kind of looked like the Bucks we were supposed to see this season tonight. And finally, you had the Suns winning over the Jazz due to 31 from... And finally, the Suns beat the Utah Jazz due to 31 from Devin Booker and 24 from Bradley Beal, who did leave this game with calf tightness. It hopefully won't be anything significant. It didn't really seem like it, but we'll just have to wait and see. They're already dealing with a Kevin Durant injury, so they really don't need more guys out. And yeah, that was night 1 of the NBA Cup. Let me know what you thought of it. Again, I thought it was amazing. Some of the best games of the entire season, and maybe they still would have been good without the NBA Cup aspect, but I really do think like the Hawks went completely all out because they really needed this one for that NBA Cup standing against the Celtics. The Pistons getting this win is a massive moment for that young team trying to find their footing. And then the Warriors-Mavs game. Of course, that one was always going to be big with Klay Thompson involved going back to Golden State. 2 of the best teams in the NBA this season, or hopefuls, because again, the Mavericks are struggling so far. But I don't know if we see that level of emotion, of hype, if it isn't an NBA Cup game. So yeah, I think it's a really good addition. It continues to provide us with great basketball. We saw a ton last season. I hope it continues to be the case. Let me know what you think so far about it. And yeah, I appreciate you watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. I'll see you all later. Real one, say back.